Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Why We Heal. I'm going to start that right over in case I didn't record. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to Why We Heal. This is Zuyapa, and we are in line and gearing up for another exciting program with my good friend and colleague, Casey Lepper, who's based in Austin, Texas. Casey is a psychotherapist, spiritual guide, and healer with the Modern Mystery School, as am I. And I have to tell you guys, before we start, Casey and I have already decided that we're going to do a part two that's going to be about something related and even better. So sit down, get ready to listen to this wonderful conversation, and know that there's going to be more. So you don't want to miss it. So first of all, welcome, Casey. Thanks so much, Casey, for coming on. I'm really excited about this.
Thank you, Zuyapa. I'm so excited to talk to you and just have a conversation today.
That's right. I think the best things come out of just having conversations. When you're just present and listening and sharing and you let what happens happen.
Yes.
So let's do it. Even though the first question is very scripted. So, first question is, what in your perspective is healing?
To me, healing is cleansing or eliminating that which causes negativity,
Mm.
whether it's on the level of the body, the mind, or the soul. And so I find a holistic approach to healing where we focus on the body, the nutritional aspect, the exercise or the movement, health through the physicality, allows us to have a healthier mind and healthier connection to our spirit ultimately.
Hmm. So, healing is multidimensional and ultimately leads back to the spirit.
I think so. I mean, in my practice and in my experience working with clients, and I've had this experience myself, when I was only working on one of the levels, I didn't feel that ultimate freedom, that ultimate embodiment.
Hmm.
And so I came into it with, like, I was really focused on my physical health, like exercising, eating well. And then in my time in grad school and building my private practice, I realized that having the negative thoughts, even around the body, was causing wounding and it wasn't allowing things to really flow.
Hmm.
And so when I got those two elements and dimensions patched up, I still didn't feel that level of freedom, that joy or that peace. And so when I brought the spirit into the work, I felt that flow.
Mm.
It was like I was connected back. And that connection, that current was allowing me to diminish some of the negative thoughts, especially around my old programming. And now when I work with people, I just have that entire multidimensional holistic approach. And I've seen such incredible results with it.
Are people generally receptive to taking that approach? I mean, do they come for you specifically for psychotherapy or for energy or, just open to the whole process?
I live in Austin, Texas, and I find that the clientele here, the population is really open to it. That people have been talking mind body for a long time, and people are pretty open to the energetic and the spiritual.
Mm.
And so some people are just, they feel life is good enough, but they know there's something more. So some people meet me at that place.
Mm.
Others talk about anxiety, things that they need to clear up in the psychological level. And then through our work together, I always start to introduce more of the spiritual approach when I feel like we've hit a glass ceiling or we need to make that jump into the next level.
Yeah, when they're ready for it.
Yes, not everyone's ready for it.
That's
And
right.
so there's a couple things that people will start to talk about that makes me feel, okay, I'm going to start bringing some of these elements in. And it can start with more mindfulness or meditation, breath work, and then we start to build.
Mm.
So not everyone who comes to me will hear me offer more of the spiritual workshops, teachings, or healings.
Hmm.
Some people need healing on a different level first.
Yeah, I totally agree. I find that a lot too, because, I'm in New Orleans, which is very southern. And it's much different from working in New York. And so I really have to be receptive to where people are and what they need, which is part of why I'm doing this program, because I do find that I have to do a lot of education and helping people to really see and move towards going beyond the physical body, or going beyond, just wanting to clear their mind or clear negativity. I get that a lot, to really
Mm.
understand that, kind of like you're saying, you really want to reestablish that current of energy by bringing in that spiritual flow, and then what that can mean.
Well, I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but New Orleans seems like a place that is connected to the spiritual in
Hmm.
some way. So do you find a lot of people open to the spiritual aspect?
I find that people look at spirituality here in a very specific way. There's a very ancient magic here, and a very, how can I say, I don't necessarily, and kind of, I don't want to offend, offend to be wrong, but I mean, there's some people who are more open to the energy of light, but I find that they are more into and aware of the modern way of looking at spirit, in terms of healing and, maybe Reiki or meditation or sound bowls and things like that. But on the other side, there's people who are more into like the ancestral magics, and some of the darker magics, or, like um, indigenous magics, which hold to the very different energy. And I find in the middle of that, there's a few people who are ready for that more, who know that something's missing inside of them, who really can relate to this essence that we're talking about, of like the spiritual energy and the truth of the person really being brought out through working with energy and spirit, versus like, let me do this spell for this thing, or, wanting
Hmm.
to manifest, or, just wanting to relax and feel good. So it's everything. But this is a culture of like partying and feel good. So feel good through food, which is numbing. Feel good through partying, which is numbing. Um, feel good through having people over and, all the joyful things, but it's kind of surface level. So I'm
Hmm.
really trying to get people underneath that to like feel better inside, but in a way that's really soul based, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, then we have the religious parts too.
Right, right.
So it's all the things in a very little city.
Yes, yes. It's a rich, rich city.
That's right. That's right. You should come and visit us.
I will.
Hmm. All right. So we talked about like freedom, embodiment, spirituality. Um, what do you do for your own well-being? Do you incorporate all of these?
I do. I think one thing I'll bring to clients often is the idea of different containers,
Hmm.
and self-love and self-care being an act of filling up all those containers
Hmm.
simultaneously, or at least within the context of a day or week. And so almost every day I get movement. I usually eat pretty healthy, and that just allows me to do the other things. It allows me to help others, to be a mother, to run businesses, and to have my head on straight
Hmm.
with it. I feel really, really balanced when I get movement, especially in the morning. And then with my mind, the spiritual aspect of the work has helped so much with clearing up the different cycles that the mind can get into. And so with the greater embodiment of spirit, I find gratitude just comes very naturally. Like, it doesn't matter what's happening. I can be triggered about something. There could be some situation that's causing me to just get angry, and this actually happened yesterday, revolving around my in-laws. And it was wonderful because at the same time when I'm fuming, my husband's fuming as well. And we're in that state, we can also really laugh at the situation.
Hmm.
And we talked about that is the gift of the spiritual work. The gift of the psychological work is knowing how this connects to his childhood and all of that, which is fun to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
But the levity of it, not really causing energetic harm, not allowing us to get swept away in our emotions and still be able to experience anger at the same time, is the magic of the whole approach.
That's right.
And so with one of my containers with the mind, it's really the gratitude. It's really just the mental diet that I consume. So I try to consume books or topics, podcasts that are more enlightening and interesting, and even across the board, very like great variety of things. And then of course the spirit, meditation, which I have a 6-week old, so meditation's been on the back burner, but rituals and connection to more spiritual forces.
Mm-hmm.
So through working with astrology or maybe different angels, different systems that reflect back what I need to work on, what I need to heal, what I need to do work around.
Mm-hmm. I really love that. Thanks for sharing the well-rounded manifestation, really, of your practice, because one of the themes that comes up in every single episode that I recorded is that people have to choose. You have to want something for your life that is going to lead you to healing or going to lead you forward. Because if not, then you're making the choices otherwise. And so you're basically saying that you've made the choice to make your entire life supportive of your well-being, which is, I think rare, but also amazing to model and be an example to people. And of course,
I
it's a lot,
think
I think for most people starting at one layer at a time is important. I do want to also say that. So it's not like change your whole thing, but, kind of going gradually where you feel comfortable, but making the choices to be healthy across the board.
I think it was my foundation of a deep commitment to balancing and helping the connection of the mind body that allowed me to be open to the potential of more spiritual aspects.
Mm-hmm. How so?
And so I really I really value action and change on a physical level. And so I think because I stepped, I think about the body, mind, soul, spirit connection as a pyramid. And so that hierarchy of need or want on a physical level, because there's such density to it, it's the most obvious. And so that's where I would put more of my attention, whether it was my attention, energy, desire, money, time. And when I got that level, then it allowed me to reinvest the time, energy, money, focus in other areas. And that foundation of feeling really, really connected to the mind and body, and having done so much work in those areas and still not feeling free from my
Mm-hmm.
past,
That's
like
right.
energetically free, like it just gone. It allowed me to be really open to other potentials. And then when it fell into my lap, I was ready to take it.
Right. So then it worked for you also because it was just the missing piece.
It was.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I really
Yeah,
like
the
what
missing piece that ended up changing everything.
the piece that changed everything you said.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I really liked what you were saying about when you got angry with the in-laws, because there is something about when you really bring in the level of spirit and energy in that aspect of healing that allows you to. It's almost like the energy uplifts you and uplifts your mind and your consciousness and your entire awareness, so that you're right. Even though you're experiencing the thing, you're also observing the thing, and that allows you to not attach to um, the stickiness of the situation, because I think that's where people get lost too. They're in something and it gets so sticky, like I feel this, I'm engaged in the emotional interchange. And even I know that being able to navigate that with Logan, who I also know is also amazing, and you guys will meet him soon, um, is also a really special thing. And so I don't know, I think I'm kind of wanting to go into how it's been able to, healing and working with yourself on this level has been helped your relationship and, how you guys relate, how you live, and even how you're managing things like, this with your in-laws.
It's been so fundamental. Um, when we were having conversations yesterday about our emotions, where we were with this situation that occurred, we were talking in terms of our lower self wants to say this, but our higher self knows this. And so really being able to process that verbally with your partner, I think is so incredible. I work with a lot of couples, and sometimes we build foundational skills around communication, conflict management, trust, intimacy, all of these things. But when you can have shared values and a higher degree of intimacy in how you communicate. Now, this we just talk about this in terms of spirit, but I see this with other couples. Maybe they're both engineers, and they can get into this high level conversation around that which they are passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
I love seeing that unfold, and it's one of the things that I think hold couples together for the long term.
Mm-hmm.
And so it changes everything. I mean, any situation that occurs that causes a little tension or stress, we connect it to these bigger principles that we've learned. And as you know, through the mystery school, we talk a lot about hermetics, which are these universal laws and practices.
Right.
And so instead of getting stuck in egoic conversations, we're always trying to pull each other to the higher conversation, the higher dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
I think at its best, couples and long-term relationships allow us to see our reflection and see where we're not growing or where we are growing.
Yeah.
And so just the aspect of both people being able to transcend together or at least progress together allows for the growth to happen even faster.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. You kind of just outlined an experience that I'm currently having. And that now, like, when I get off this call, I'm going to actually act on it. Because I'm serious. Because
I do want
I'm
to ask details, but
no details. Sorry, guys. No, but it's a situation that is kind of that it's happening right now, and I'm very much aware of my lower self reaction and my higher self reaction, and so I haven't reacted at all because, or not reacted, but I haven't made a move or said anything at all because I'm aware of these two, and I'm allowing myself to figure out where I really land. Which one is really the authentic one that needs to be expressed, which one doesn't need to be expressed, and does anything need to be expressed? So
yeah.
yeah, but you made me think about something.
Mm-hmm.
It's my mini
Well,
therapy session, guys.
our in the higher self conversation, it we asked ourselves, or I asked Logan, do you feel called to just let it simmer, like let it lie, and that the work is to just let it go, or is it to confront with a
Mm-hmm.
conversation?
Mm-hmm.
And it's to confront with the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
That gentle push in that direction. But yeah, it's a question we have to ask.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an empowering way to ask it and not to make him feel wrong or anyone feel wrong.
He's lucky, right?
Yeah. He's very lucky. Wink, wink, Logan. Do you find that to be consistent with your couples? Because, one thing that I know that I experience in doing this work is people are afraid that it's going to adversely affect their relationships. Doing the work, like doing healing work or changing and evolving.
Yeah, no, I mean, it will. It will. It changes the relationship to yourself first and foremost. And so there's going to be an outward effect of that.
Mm-hmm.
But if a relationship has the quality needed to be long term, and that could mean forever or just longer, it will withstand the transitional period.
Yeah.
So with Logan and I got into the work, I think maybe 6 months earlier, and the first year and a half of it was so hard. there was so much debris coming up to the
Yeah.
surface,
Yeah.
and it was so hard. Like, really, I was really committed to seeing the dark parts of myself, and he wasn't fully. And so
Mm-hmm.
then that had its own repercussions.
Mm-hmm.
But then once we both committed to this path of, magic, and not avoiding that which is uncomfortable and seeing the darkness,
Yeah.
it's changed our relationship for the better. But there were very, very challenging transitions to
Mm-hmm.
get there.
I mean, relationships are going to have challenging moments anyway, so it might as well be something that's going to get you over a hump into something beautiful, you know?
Hmm. And I think we can get so comfortable in a relationship that we end up stagnating.
Yes.
So often I will have people who are maybe ready to take the leap from the psychological work to the spiritual, but if
Mm-hmm.
they're in a relationship they don't think can handle it, whether they know that consciously or not, it limits and reduces their willingness
That's
to
right.
step forward.
That's right.
And then it's only after that relationship has ended that they'll come back around and have the realization as to why they weren't progressing themselves.
That's right. I had someone talk about this just yesterday, like a deep fear that it was going to affect their marriage. Um, yeah, that's huge because people don't always move at the same pace. I mean, rarely we do we? You know? And I know I like that you said that you went first before Logan because also very often it's a woman who guides the man and he has to choose whether he's going to step into that light held by the goddess or if he's going to stay in his current reality, which can tend to be a bit stagnant
Yeah.
and comfortable,
Mhm.
even if it's
I see
uncomfortable.
the same. Yeah. I see the same pattern psychologically too. So a lot of times it's the female partner suggesting the male partner seeks some
Hmm.
support, and couples therapy is almost always initiated by the female. Not always,
Yeah.
but a large majority.
Yeah. Do you find, how do you find that the men respond to it?
I think they end up loving it.
Yeah.
I'm also a therapist, and in my consultations, I'll talk that I'm much more change focused. I give guidance and advice, and classical psychology wasn't about giving advice. And
Hmm.
that never made sense to me. So I can be somewhat like a mental trainer or coach. And I find a lot of the masculine or my male clients really like that. So there's a practical nature to it. We're not just opening up and diving into all the stuff.
Right.
We're doing something with it, and I give a lot of tools and recommendations after the fact to integrate what we've discussed to
Hmm.
start to create change in their life as a result. So I end up bringing on a lot of male clients as a result of that method.
Hmm. That's probably really important because I know that a lot of men, it's not easy for them to really go into those deep places. You know, it's not natural. It's not really what they use to operate in the world.
Hmm. Yeah. It's sometimes it can feel like a foreign language,
Mm-hmm.
but also there's something that happens when they have someone to m- make them feel safe.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll approach those difficult conversations with a certain softness,
Mm-hmm.
and it allows people to open up. I think just the soft energy allows people to feel safe being vulnerable, and
Yeah.
that could be with males or females.
Yes, 100%. It's like
Hmm.
being held in the womb.
Yes, it's
Just
like a
come and
big hug.
relax.
They feel safe. Yeah. Hmm.
It's a gift to be able to do that too, you know. I mean, part of it is a skill, but part of it is an essence, you know, that you have to carry.
Hmm.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing
Yeah,
yourself.
my own work. It's sometimes I've been trained by professionals and practitioners who have it. and you just feel so different communicating with them,
Yeah.
and you can get lost in it. It's just like safety. You just feel safe. And some people who really want to be there, but their energy is just not there,
Yeah.
it can close someone down.
What do you find to be, or rather, do you find it helpful when people do psychotherapy work and energy healing at the same time? I tend to find it to be like a dynamic duo.
Completely. Almost every person I've worked with oscillates between the two,
Hmm.
and in different patterns, but absolutely. So when I do a spiritual healing, and then the next session, we might just talk about the things that have come up.
Yes,
And it's not to get into the drama of it, it's just
that's right.
really reflection. And with the people in my life who do this work, who are committed to either self actualization or transcendence of some sort, it's so great to be able to talk about what's coming up. It's humbling, and
That's
it
right.
can be challenging at times, but to have a network and a community of people who engage in that level of conversation with this tone of responsibility, but also just vulnerability to share all of the pieces.
Hmm.
And so I find it's really helpful to the work. Some people who find me just for the spiritual sessions, they have like an incredible session. It's wonderful. Maybe a text exchange after, and they're telling me what they feel. But then there's almost no relationship to stand on where
Yeah,
we can like nurture it
that's right.
further and further. And I feel, in my perspective, I don't know the story of what they're living. Maybe it's created amazing ripples in their life, but I love being able to see it and to nurture it and to reflect the ideas that are coming forth and to keep them open and moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. I really love being able to do the combination.
Hmm.
Yeah, I really,
Yeah,
really like it. And people really move further, faster. Yeah, I
so
love it.
fast.
And it also helps us to, we serve better, because when you're engaged and you have something to work with, like basically someone saying, hey, this is what you can work with, then it gives us something to do, a way to really uplift them, as they're moving forward. Yeah, I understand. I feel the same way as you're saying. If someone comes in and pops in and out for session, it's fine. And they can still have amazing results. But there's something about being able to be engaged and walk the path together. It's a game changer.
It gives you so much experience as to what can happen too,
Hmm.
where there's so many examples. And so the belief turns into this knowing that these tools have great potential to completely change everything
Right.
if the person so desires and
Right.
listens
Of
and takes it.
course. Of course.
There's still, of course, the free will associated with that.
Right.
But if someone comes in and I say, this is what's happened with the hundreds of people I've worked with, and this could happen for you, I feel like a great deal of integrity in suggesting something because I've seen what it can do.
That's right.
Hmm.
Yeah. And they grow more too, because in between sessions, they can't really discern what they're experiencing. They don't really have the right reference point to know, what's in effect or what is, what's the next thing to work on. So, I mean, it's like anything else. If you have a coach, if you have a doctor, if you go to your parent or your friend, someone who can help you see things, it's the same thing with your healer or your therapist or your guide. It's great to have someone who can support you and see what you can't see, show you what you can't see, and show you your potential, really.
Yeah, I think that's what helped me progress because I received the healing, the life activation healing. I was an emotional wreck. I was just so emotional and like an
Before it or
outpouring of
after?
all these afterwards.
Okay.
I was very buttoned up before. I was very emotionally repressed. I couldn't really cry at all.
Mm.
And afterwards, I cried for a week straight, just
Oh,
so
wow.
sensitive. because I have the expertise I do, I said, a lot of the emotions coming out are my childhood emotions. Let me
Mm,
start to focus on the inner child.
mm,
I knew how to do that work because I do it with other people, but I didn't have the energy to unlock the emotions. And once I honored what was coming up because of the activation and nurtured it through, I think the psychological container can create a structure to the process.
mhm,
Then it really, really allowed me to move through it in a way that gave me such great insight.
mm. Okay, we're going to go a little bit into the inner child, but I want to say for anyone who is listening who is not familiar with the life activation, it is a one-on-one session. It's really beautiful. If you've watched previous episodes, you'll see that many people have said that it's their favorite session. It's a DNA activation that you can see either Casey or I for, and many other people that you will find through the directory, and we can help you. But it's an amazing session that will help you in your life and in every way possible to open your potential. Now, inner child work. Do you find this to be a foundation for many people's adulthood challenges?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think whether someone had the most idyllic childhood, we can always go back to some different narratives that were picked up early on.
That's right.
And so I think about it as the higher self is like the true self, the piece that the spiritual aspect of the work brings forth and you connect to.
Mm-hmm.
So self with a capital S. And so we're all born with that, and it encompasses our entire being. And so when both of my children were born, you can see their essence is just there, and that's their capital S self.
Right.
And then things end up getting in the way. It could be our parents, which has the most adverse effect, but it could be siblings, family members, teachers, different authority figures, different, like the
The
world
world.
and the
Yeah.
societal pressures at large can start to warp some of that essence. And then we start to live from that small s. And we're kind of the higher self is contained
Right.
and diminished.
Right.
And so inner child healing, I think, is so important to reconnect to that purity and draws that being, that presence, and that essence forth. And through that, we have to heal.
Right.
And we see anything that blocks that connection is where we focus the healing on. So
Mm-hmm.
it could be mental formations, belief systems. It could be trauma that's being held in the body. And of course, depending on what comes up, when you have a large toolkit, which I know, we have, you can hit it at so many different angles. And so for my own inner child healing, when I really felt like I was able to live that purity, that essence in my day-to-day life, at least in the majority of the time, it just changed how I viewed everything, how I viewed
Mm-hmm.
myself, my family members. I didn't hold any anger towards them. It was just everything became clear and wiped away.
It's like your perspective grows up.
Hmm.
That's what I
Yeah.
experience when I do inner child work. I'm like, oh, my whole perspective is different now, older.
Yeah. When I was getting into this work, like more open to the spiritual nature of things, I started with a lot of books.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the most fundamental books I read that started really opening me up was Polishing the Mirror by Ram Dass.
Mm-hmm.
And in it, he talked about looking at your family members and just loving them the way they are. And I just couldn't understand how you would get there.
Yeah.
Okay. Mentally, it's like, okay, just appreciate them for who they are. Mentally, that's quite a strain. It took a lot of pulling back to just affirm, okay, this is what you care about now. You just care about them being themselves. But when it actually shifted over and it was like a pure, that's okay. They're existing at their level of consciousness. It's fine. It really, really starts to drive. I think it drove home the idea to me that healing has to be on all these levels. Like it just can't be psychological.
That's right.
And yeah, it really, in my own experience, it was that piece, that healing of the inner child, and how I saw it reflected in every single one of my relationships was the confirmation and motivation I needed to move forward and get as many tools and trainings as I could in this way, in this realm.
Hmm. Yeah, I find that a lot as well, that um, people really struggle with how to be compassionate for people, or how to, allow them to be where they are, whether it's judging someone's actions or behaviors, or it's holding on to what they've done or the way they think or the way they are. It's really hard for people to let go. And again, it really is more than just changing it in your mind or telling yourself that you're going to allow them. You have to be able to shift it in yourself so that it's not reflecting back to you from someone else. It's like kind of how you were saying, of being able to raise your perspective and observe a situation without really being engaged in it. It's the same thing that we're doing with healing. We're basically raising ourselves above that level of consciousness and awareness where those things live, so that then you're not affected by it, and you can actually let someone live there because you're living in your own reality, which is the one that you feel better in.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
What would you say is your favorite healing modality to receive or to offer?
Celestial code,
Oh, okay.
which why I love it so much is because I think of this dual expertise I have. So celestial code is going into an area of our energy body called the etheric body. And it's where we hold a lot of our mental formations and core beliefs. And so the celestial code is about going into that area and removing a core belief that is no longer of service.
Hmm.
And so once I received that tool to be able to help support the clients I have that come to me on a more psychological level, and for them to be able to experience that clearing
Hmm.
is huge. And because I am so focused on my own evolution and progression, and I love to change and I love to be challenged, doing that work requires having that cleaned up in myself too. And it's just one I feel like brightens everything. It just lightens the load and feels like a detox of all that I've worked on.
Hmm. Yeah, I really love that one too. I think Stacy also talked about that one being her favorite. And
Mm.
I also really like what you said, because it's a really important part, that so much work that people do, they might think it's changing something in their mind, or they're letting go, or continuously letting go and releasing, but these things get trapped in the energy field, and so they may have been released on some level, but they're still in your field and affecting you on subconscious level. So things like the celestial code will help to remove that actually from your field, so then it's really gone, and you can actually shift and move forward, more than kind of changing your mind. It's like the difference between changing
Yeah.
your mind and changing your framework.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like after the session, we can't really hold on to the narrative of what we just let go of.
Hmm.
It's like we can't get into that mindset. We can't, because the energy is just not there.
Hmm. I really hope, I'm just thinking and reflecting, that I really hope that this helps people to um, feel safer, or feel less of a barrier to taking that next step, to make change, and maybe to try something different. Like if you've been in therapy, or if you've thought about therapy and you don't feel like it's for you, because it's really not for everyone. Everybody doesn't want to sit down and talk, or, you know, deal with their things. Like, really understand that there's more that you can do, that you can also pursue the spiritual aspect, or, go and see someone for energy healing that can start to move these things from the core of you, so that then it's starting to change your framework and your mind and your experiences, without you having to really dive into um, all the memories, all the traumas and things that you've experienced. Because some people really have things that they're holding on to that, it's just too much, and they need a way to lighten the load. So I really hope that, people are getting from this, that there is a way to lighten your load.
I would echo that and say the thing I want people to know is that when you're working in this integrative way to let go and to heal, you're with like the Trinity, so the body, the mind, the soul, and spirit. Your piece of the pie of each might be different than another person.
Right.
So maybe the physical is where you really get it, and then yoga or breath work, different aspects of the physical will start to open up that spiritual aspect or that mental aspect. But it can look so different. The configuration is so unique, but I think it's really important to be able to hit all three.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And yeah, not stopping at one. Because, there's sometimes people go for yoga and they're like, I feel good. I'm good. I'm doing yoga. I feel at ease. Yes. And there's more. Or I'm eating really well. I'm losing weight. I'm working out. Yes. And there's more. Or even if you just go the spiritual route. You okay?
I
Even if
have
you
a
just
little.
go a little thing in your throat. Me too now. Um, yeah, but just going the spiritual route and neglecting your body or neglecting, the way that you're eating or taking care of yourself. It's also like we really have to approach everything because all aspects of us really matter in this cohesive way that we exist on the planet. And I think what's really important too, and what I like about what
I
you're
have to.
talking about, do it, go for
Hold on one
it. We're going to give Casey a break too. Take care of her physical body needs, as what we are currently talking about. This is a good time to remind you guys to like and subscribe to the channel and send us any questions or suggestions for episode and guests that you want to see as
You're
Casey
pro.
rejoins us.
It
Those
was
things
one of
always
those
happen
I
at the
chose
perfect
not
time.
to be able to suppress it.
You can't. You just have to go for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know what I was saying, but it's fine.
Non-attachment, right?
Exactly. Non-attachment. Maybe it just wasn't the right thing to be saying. Who knows? It's all good. If it's important, it'll come back around. We've had a segue, so let's see. What do we want people to know now? Oh, I know what I was going to say. We were talking about all the levels that are important, and I wanted to also say that relationships are really important. So I also like that, like we brought that in through your conversation, because relating to other people is how we experience ourselves and experience life. So taking that into your healing and your journey as well as a key theme is also really important. And it's not just romantic relationships. We are in a relationship to everything and everyone. So it's your relationship with yourself, relationships with the people in your community, your family, coworkers, the people at the grocery store. How much can you really take advantage of growing and evolving through your interactions with other people is a key point of healing and evolution.
And I would add, it's also the relationship to just nature
Mm-hmm.
and things. So people, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
But places and things, I think there's a natural reverence that starts to flow, this appreciation, this respect for just all the little things.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be smells, it could be fabrics, trees.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you
Mm-hmm.
for that. Because I think about that as well, especially with so much tourism going on. I find that people like just go travel somewhere, some beautiful location, and just take their same closed minded selves to somewhere else without really being able to connect with the essence of that place. It's not just about all the physical things and what you can eat and buy. It's like, what is the spirit of that location? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Everything.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a
Good point.
couple
Thank you.
trips I wish I could redo
I redo.
as a more present, reverent being.
Yeah, you can, or just
I'll do it.
go and do some other ones and make up for it.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
This also, it's kind of a segue back to relationships, but I'm curious now what you think about, because I'm thinking about how you said like how there's things that can show long-term potential for a couple, like if you have something that you relate to mutually. And I'm thinking about this multidimensionality that we're talking about in terms of like not only relationship, but don't forget about, relationship to nature and to, fabrics and all these things in the same context of romantic relationships. And that, um, what am I trying to say? Like sometimes people come together because of one thing and they stay together because of that one thing. But when you can have multiple aspects, like say you have the mind, body, soul, spirit, passion and intellect and all these things that come together in one relationship, the difference and maybe the challenge in having that versus when, it's more of like, yes, we come together because we relate on this level and it works for us, and maybe it's a choice for everyone what they want, but it's different experiences and there's more potentials, I feel. And maybe that's the divine union aspect too.
And I think with the divine union piece, you have to be more multidimensional.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be like the point of connection can't be just one thing. It has to weave with all of life. So a lot of people, maybe it's their kids they connect with, but when you
Mm-hmm.
have other aspects, then it just adds, I think, this texture or this richness to life in the relationship. And I do think it's a personal decision. I always wanted a more, marry my best friend, like live a really, really full life together,
Yeah,
a
me too.
very colorful life together. And some people I meet, um, and I think it would probably boil down to they didn't see other people living it, so
That's right.
their aspect of a relationship is maybe more flat,
Yep.
lacking dimension.
Yep.
It's this is the status quo or the standard, and it's a pretty low standard.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then, yeah. And they know it on some level because then they're still like feeling something's missing
Yeah,
and they act that out in different ways.
yeah. Sometimes you have one partner who feels it and one person who does not,
That's
and
right.
then yeah, then lots of things can occur after that
Yeah.
piece. But
Lots of things do
I see
occur.
that a lot. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see that a lot.
Yeah. It's fascinating. I think about relationships so much. Just really, really fascinating. Because, you're also like bring together these two people who then are together, living life together, but you're still two people. And, most people don't have these tools. They're not really mutually engaging in the process of healing. And so, when I'm out, like I look at couples and I like see how they tend to like you can tell a couple, you can tell ones that are like healthy, you can tell ones that are not so healthy, but you can also see their dynamic and how they relate to each other and the nuance and like the personality of this one. And I get curious about like, oh, how does that person, how do you enjoy that? But they're married, so there must have some level to it. I just find relationships so fascinating, so fascinating.
I'm so passionate about the work because I really have come to understand just how important they are and how they can truly be the gateway for progression or the closed gate for
Yeah,
progression.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
People come in and they will talk about work or business or relationships.
yeah.
It's usually one or the other, and they'll oscillate between the two depending on what's going on.
Right.
Some people can't talk about work or career or purpose until the relationship is handled. And the second either the relationship ends, it gets better, something happens, then they can focus on the next thing. So I find that people are really wedged into either camp,
Yeah.
and it really, really takes so much energy to exist in a relationship that's not good for you.
Yes, yes, yes. That's going to be one of our quotes. It really does. It's so draining and it's so distracting. It's just so many things. I think and it's inhibiting of so many other things that can be beautiful and joyful about life. Because in the back of your mind or in your mind, you have that, like that's there, the constriction of it, of the relationship.
Yeah, completely. I could go into. I could go into like so many different things. I'm
I
trying to be
know. And just
mindful
so
of
you guys know, the
time.
next one we're doing is going to be all about relationship and divine union. So we're not going too much into it now, but that is going to be part 2 with Casey and her husband, Logan. So it's going to get really good, as you can see. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's so fascinating. And I also hope, again, like we're talking about so many things, I also want people in relationships to also understand that these are universal things. You can feel like you're alone. You can feel like you're the only one going through it, but it's so common. You might think we're talking exactly to you, and we may be, but we're talking to so many other people who are also experiencing the exact same thing. And these are also all the reasons that we are one human race, because we all experience the same things at different times in different ways. And healing is beautiful for everyone because we all experience these things. And it's about how can we all collectively ascend and be more in union and understand oneness and understand the mutuality of, our heart and our potential to have peace in ourselves, in our homes, in the world. And it's all done by bringing in the essence of spirit into matter, which is our bodies, letting it flow and spread out.
Yes.
Yeah. Any parting words for the people?
I would say thinking about healing in this holistic way, you can start to act now by just writing down those containers. So just writing down, what would it look like if I put more energy towards my physical body, my mind, my soul and spirit? And that doesn't take any money. It's just the idea, like what would it look like? And how would you break up different actions? And I think that could be a really great starting place to see maybe where you need to put more energy or focus, especially since we find ourselves at the beginning of a year where we have a clean slate to
Mm-hmm.
really nurture specific seeds for this year. And so asking yourself where you really want to put your attention.
Mm-hmm. And then again, you're empowering yourself to make the next choice.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's all choice and free will. But also, when you have that life activation, it's also going to open up your potentials and give you more access to that free will. So think about that too after you finish your list. And until then, thanks so much for joining us. And thanks so much, Casey, for sharing yourself and your wonderful energy and your practice and your experiences. Do you want to tell people how to reach you in Austin, Texas?
Yes. So you can find me on my website, clarityveil.com. And that's the spiritual aspect of all of my work. But you can find my email and contact me through there.
All right. And you guys know where to find me. I'm Zuyapa Jackson, and I am at zuyapajackson.com. Until next time, don't forget, we will be back with Casey and her husband to talk about relationships and divine union. Until then, feel free to like and subscribe to the channel and the show to get all the updates. See you guys soon.